So you go back to the place where we all go when we die. You return to the light, you return to God, to the mother, and you also realize that you are God. And so from then on, my mantra just became like, I want to get paid to be myself because myself is God, and I want to work on God's behalf. And then I really got into the feminine mysteries and started using the word goddess, not to replace God, but just to honor the feminine aspect of the creative life force energy in this universe. It takes like 6 gallons. There's 4 liters per gallon. So it's like 24 liters of water every time you flush a toilet. I mean, especially in a first world country, that water is water that people in Africa would kill to drink. They would kill to have that kind of water, and we just flush it away. And that's why we have this relationship to our emotions, to our sexuality. If a woman is sensual and just like enjoying herself or enjoying her food or enjoying her life, it's like, oh, she's asking for it. Like, what are you doing? It's this toxic relationship to all of these different aspects of ourselves. So many people are running off of the greed of destroying Mother Earth and harming Mother Nature. That's why we're sick and unhealthy and depressed and anxious and overly medicated. And even, the medical system is like pharmaceuticals, when all of our medicine used to come from the earth. It all came from plants. That was the only option we had. A lot of reasons why women would get accused of witchcraft was if they had big wells full of water, or healthy, abundant, verdant fields full of food, or big flocks of livestock. That's why the Vatican is one of the richest conglomerates in the entire world, is because they just stole gold and resources from all over the planet in the name of God.
Hello and welcome to Elevated Conversations. In this conversation, we have a beautiful chat with Mia Magic, redefining what it means to be a witch, to be connected to the earth and earth spirits, and how we can learn to bring out this magic and this connection to Mother Earth in our day-to-day life. I know you guys will love this one. She's got so much energy. She's amazing. Mia Magic.
Welcome to our Elevated Conversations podcast, Mia. It's so nice to meet you and have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys. So nice to be here.
So we're so intrigued. We just got started on the plant medicine journeys. That's how our journey actually started, with beautiful plant medicine ayahuasca, and it changed our life forever. There was no turning back. And we still dabble from time to time in these different modalities, which, help us go inwards and let go and surrender, because there's no other things you can really do in that moment. But we'd love to hear about your awakening story. We love asking people. It's like a birth story, really. It's like, how did you go?
Mine was really kind of like a marathon. I didn't necessarily have one particular moment that changed everything. There were certainly big, impactful moments. But when I go back, the birth story of it, I almost became an amputee when I was 16. I was in a really bad car accident. I almost lost my arm, and I covered up the scar for like 10 years. And when I started meditating and started like hanging out in a spiritual community, I had this one friend who's actually a famous actor, and we just bonded immediately. And he was like, I don't want to see you covering that up. Like, when you hang out with me, don't cover that up. Just be who you are. Don't cover your scar. And I was like, okay. So I'd started hanging out with him. He was like recording an album. We were in the studio. And so I would go with like a long sleeve shirt and not have my scar covered, but still it was covered. And I went to a meditation event one Sunday morning in Venice. I lived in like Hancock Park. You guys, this is like, whatever. It's LA. You live in Australia. So you're like, whatever. But so it's like a long drive. I drove all the way out to the coast to go to my little meditation class. And I was going to go back to my neighborhood for a pool party later that afternoon. And I went with a friend, and I took off the sweatshirt that I was wearing to go out to the coast. It's a little colder. And I look for the sleeve that I always wore to cover my arm. And I'm like tearing through my car. I always had them. Like, I've been wearing them for a decade. It was like I didn't go anywhere without this. This was like my security blanket and my shield of armor and my, protection and defense mechanism. Like, I never went anywhere without it. Can't find the one in my glove box. Can't find the one in my purse. Can't find the one in my trunk. Like, can't find them anywhere. And I was panicking, like losing my shit. And I heard this voice that was like, Mia, enough. This is enough now. And I'm, tears streaming down my face. And my friend's like, we don't have to go in. It's okay. Like, I'll go home with you if you want. And I was just like, no, no, it's okay. And we like walked in the house and nobody even noticed my scars. And I like dove immediately into the pool and I'm getting out of the pool. And this girl's like, oh my God. And I was like, what's she going to say? I'm deformed. She's like, I love your bikini. And I was like, what? Can you see that I'm disfigured? Like, can you see how damaged I am? What do you mean you like my bikini? Like, are you blind? And when I got home that day, these many, many little sleeves that I had had to cover my scar, they all had dematerialized from reality. They just no longer existed. I couldn't find a single one. I'd been wearing them every day for 10 years, like every day. And so the sheer miracle of that like they all disappeared. I never found one ever again. Like I just never found them in all my stuff and all my laundry. That dematerialization of something that I had relied upon for a decade, that was trippy enough in and of itself. But the biggest piece, and I still get chills thinking about this because this hasn't been like part of the story as much. People usually ask like, oh, how did you discover your magic? Or like, how did you become a witch or whatever? But this story is particular. And the cognitive dissonance that I experienced from feeling like, wait, nobody actually even noticed or nobody actually even cared. I've been forming my identity since like my teenagehood. So growing into adulthood, forming my identity around being deformed, being disfigured, being damaged, being ugly, and all of that meaning that I'm unworthy of love or power or magic or connection or friendship or anything. And nobody even noticed. And that single moment and experience made me start asking, what else have I built my identity around? What else? What other stories am I telling myself are 100% God's honest truth that actually might not be? And the whole world around me might not be in the collective agreement with me on this. And that moment, I never wore, obviously I couldn't find them, so I never wore anything to cover my arm ever again. And that moment transformed my entire life. And then I went to Burning Man a few months later. So then Burning Man is this festival of full self-expression, and I got to be there with thousands of people. And it was the first time I'd ever just been fully myself. I'm not covering something up. I'm not hiding. This is who I am. And like you with the Aya, I never went back. And then that year I did do my first ayahuasca ceremony and 5-MeO DMT and started on a medicine path that I was on for a couple of years. And it, yeah, like you said, there's just no going back and changes your life forever.
That is a really great awakening story. Like that is just like the best because, there's something wrong with me, right? False belief in our root chakra. Like that's the beginning. And for you, it was a physical, there's something wrong with me, but we've all got it, right?
Yeah.
And for some people, it might be a character trait or it might be something else that's played out energetically in their childhood or whatever it may be. And they think, oh my God, something wrong with me. I'm not enough. I'm not lovable, et cetera, et cetera. But I love that you got shown that before the plant medicines, because this is often a realization that comes after. So I'm curious, when you did your first plant medicine, was it reinforcing that beautiful love for self and the realize that I can create my own story here? Like, how did that play out? I'm just curious.
It was more like a full fucking blast off from being, like from being, again, like having my identity very contained by this belief system. And so then when I was no longer contained and really like kind of imprisoned by that. My first ayahuasca ceremony, to be perfectly honest with you, I fell asleep in between the first and second cups. Like the medicine just didn't like hit me the way that it does with most people. That was just my first journey. But with the 5-MeO, basically what's happening is the MAO inhibitors are turning the parts of your brain off that get you into fear state and basically like you die without dying. So you go back to the place where we all go when we die. You return to the light, you return to God, to the mother. And you also realize that you are God and that
Mm.
everything in your reality is your creation and is your projection and is a figment of your hologram. And so that was really what had happened, is that I'd been liberated from this smaller self, and also had the realization, like you said, that everyone has scars. Mine just were outside where everyone could see them. Like everyone has these same belief systems that impact and inform their way of behaving. But once that had been shed, which still took many layers and lots of time to actually alleviate from my consciousness, but then with the medicine, the magic of life was undeniable, and what I was here for was undeniable, and the trajectory I was on and where I was going and what I was meant to do. And of course, I still had to like deal with that. I had to integrate. And that was actually why for me, plant medicine didn't become the really deep devotional path, is because I just didn't, I did the ceremonies and nobody called me a week or two later. No one was checking up on me. No one was coaching me through how to implement these new realizations in my day-to-day life. And they were big realizations. I would go down and watch the sunset and just be weeping and sobbing and like totally overwhelmed with the beauty and the fact that like I am the sun, the light inside of me is my heart that's beating, and I am the water, it's the blood in my veins, and I am the earth, it's the bones and like me that are the stones and the mountains, and oh my God, I'm breathing the air that the trees and the algae make for me. And I was just like totally overwhelmed, but also in such blissful gratitude. And so that was really the gift that the medicine gave me, was wow, I am everything that I see before me. And everything that I see before me is a reflection of me and is an invitation for me and is an offering, a symbolic offering of communication from the universe for me, an opportunity to, meet and succeed in my earth curriculum. But it was really that I feel like I'd expanded so much again in my conscious mind through that first experience, that I was able to just become God. Like the shaman was like, that was like an angelic cosmic nap. You just laid there in bliss for an hour and 20 minutes. And even that medicine is usually like a 15 or 20-minute experience. It's very short, and mine was very long. And so that was really the moment where I was like, okay, I want to serve God. I just want to serve God. I know that that is me. I'm here in this tiny little microcosmic expression of it, but I want to serve the part of me that is infinite. And I want to serve that power that I've touched and accessed and witnessed and am so moved by. And I want that to be my driving force and motivation. And so from then on, my mantra just became like, I want to get paid to be myself, because myself is God. And I want to work on God's behalf. And then I really got into the feminine mysteries and started using the word goddess, not to replace God, but just to honor the feminine aspect of the creative life force energy in this universe. And then really got into the priestess work and how Mother Earth is in fact like the embodiment of a living sentient deity upon whose skin we are merely bacteria. And then my devotion really turned to being for her. And that ultimately, I hope, I believe, is a reason why plant medicine is having such a resurgence, is because we do need to remember how important it is to care for the earth. And even a lot of conscious people, who are ordering from Amazon every day are really forgetting that.
I love it. That's so good. I love how connected and you speak so well of the interception of the like integration of God, source, the planet, coming the trees, the earth. And I'd really like to dive a little bit deeper into that conversation around like connecting to our beautiful mother, Mother Gaia, Pachamama, and using her as an ally for energy, which then I know that you're big on connecting that to our serpent energy for creation and manifestation. So how do you see that having a big impact on one when one applies that kind of technique to connect all of that together?
Well, especially in a world where we're very focused on consumerism and capitalism, like capitalism has become this very destructive energy, when really money or like abundance in and of itself, abundance is the nature of the goddess. Abundance is the nature of nature. You know, you look at a forest, you look at an orchard, you look at an ocean, it is abundant. Maybe not a desert, you know, but even there, like you can find the oases, you can do the dowsing rods and like find the water underneath. So abundance is a natural way of being. It's the way of nature. And when you look at those elements, again, so earth is our bodies, and the earth represents our material reality. We get that word mater from mother. It's the same word. So material reality means like of the mother. So it's our relationships, it's our finances, it's our health of our physical bodies, it's our homes, it's anything that's like physical, right, in our material reality. And so when you work with the earth to manifest abundance or partnership or a new job or anything more deeper health in your body, you are literally harmonizing with the energetic forces of creation, because that is the solid element that God or the universe has used to create, at the very least, like the planet that we're living on. Then the water element is our emotions, our creativity, our sensuality and sexuality. And so you look at, I mean, just to be like really real here, we're having an elevated conversation, so I'm going to be real with y'all. Look at what we do to the water. Water is our blood, it's our tears, it's our sweat, it's the literal liquid of creation inside of a woman that forms into a child eventually. And we shit in the water. Like we dam the waters, we pollute the waters, we poison the waters, we like dump all of our sewage into the waters. And that's why our sexuality is so shamed and made so wrong and so commodified with, you know, OnlyFans and porn and like all of these things. That's why men don't feel safe to fall apart and have any emotions, that they're deemed weak, and women aren't allowed to have like the storms inside of us, because then we're crazy or we're bitches or we're aggressive. And then the same goes for air. Air is the element of our communication, of our thoughts, of our mind, of our belief systems. And look at how we pollute the air. Look at the smog in big cities, right? Like there's all this exhaust and all this, you know, like just poison in the air. And look at the mental health crisis that we're in. Our minds are clouded. People do not feel their minds feel polluted. They're polluted by social media and by, you know, television and advertisements. And again, this like consumptive culture that is fueled by your belief that there's something wrong with you and that you're not good enough. And that if you buy the car or the clothes or the bag or the makeup or the, you know, whatever it is, I'm like, what are the things for guys? Like watches and tractors, like, you know, but like,
watches, I think, and
watches,
lawnmowers
cars,
in Pete's situation. Lawnmowers is a big one around here.
There you go, lawnmowers. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I need the big riding lawnmower, right? But like, if you don't have those things, you're still not enough, and you're not valuable, because you're not meeting this, again, like consumptive capitalist society. When like money's great, right? Like money is not the negative energy. It's the greed behind it. It's the scarcity behind it. And scarcity is the opposite of abundance. So scarcity is what we are experiencing because we're disconnected from nature, because we're not living in our, you know, beautiful forested homes and growing our own food. And like our soil has been depleted of nutrients. So then we like have to eat and eat and eat in order to get the same amount of nutrition as our grandparents did. You know, from one orange, we need 3 nowadays. And then you look at the fire, and you know, you guys have had horrible fires down there. We've had horrible fires here in the States, in California in particular, all over the place, Colorado. And the fire is the element of transformation. Right? You see a day go from day into night. You can see things and then you can't. Like it transforms the whole visual landscape. It transforms food when we cook it. You know, it transforms the landscape when it burns. And so fire is the element of our motivation, our drive. It's literally the electricity that's making our hearts beat. And it's why we call what properly functioning neurons do firing, is because that's the fire inside of us. It's literally the sunlight in us. And so when you work in harmony with these elements, when you reconnect and understand, like I'm just like one of those crazy ass bitches. Like I look high maintenance, but like I'm a pee outside every single day because I
Oh,
want to
I
honor
love
the water.
that.
Like, oh, you better believe it. Like people see, they're like, what is she doing? I'm like, I'm just peeing. I'm just outside. Hey, what's up? You know, they're like,
I said to Pete, I'm the same. We could never live in suburbia after I've lived on this
yeah,
big, beautiful property. We're all weeing outside. It's just funny.
exactly. But like even just the act of that, I know you guys use liters, but like it takes like 6 gallons. There's 4 liters per gallon. So it's like 24 liters of water every time you flush a toilet.
Mm,
Clear, I mean, especially in a first world country, that water is water that people in Africa would kill to drink. They would
mm,
kill to have that kind of water. And we just
mm,
flush it away. We disrespect it. We disregard it. And that's why we have this relationship to our emotions, to our sexuality. If a woman is sensual and just like enjoying herself or enjoying her food or enjoying her life, it's like, oh, she's asking for it. Like, what are you doing? It's this toxic relationship to all of these different aspects of ourselves. You know, so many people are running off of the greed of destroying Mother Earth and harming
mm,
Mother Nature, and that's why we feel, that's why we're sick and unhealthy and depressed and anxious and overly medicated. And even, you know, the medical system is like pharmaceuticals, when all of our medicine used to come from the earth. It all came from plants. That was the
mm,
only option we had. And so for me, the more I have been aware of these things, the more I have understood my relationship, not just to the elements outside, but again, they're a direct reflection within me. How can I honor the earth that is my body and that is the planetary body? How can I honor the waters within me that is my blood and my tears and the waters outside of me? How can I honor the fire? How can I honor the air?
mm,
And I tell you what, y'all, you know, it's not a manifestation technique that many people talk about, but the more in alignment I am with nature, the better my life gets. And even
mm.
in the hardest, I've had like one of the hardest years of my life. I lost both my cats. My 5-year relationship ended. We moved out of our house. Like it's been crazy. But even in that awful time, my level of resilience, my level of trust, my capacity to just go out and be held by nature, the innate responses that I have to the worst things that are going on, they're just better. They're just different than they used to be. And so
Mm.
you can use this energy in your chakra system, your roots, like your root chakra, your genitals, your pussy and your ass, all of the things. Like you can use that energy, that rooted, grounded, earthy energy to build pleasure and power, and then work it up your chakra system in that very serpentine kundalini path that allows you to manifest. And you can use it with breath or with self pleasure or just with the energy and just with intention, but utilizing our awareness and connection to the earth is, in my opinion, like the most powerful, and not just power like we see it in the world, but true power,
Mm.
genuine, fulfilling, purposeful, regenerative power that's of service to all life as opposed to like just our own lives. And it really works. And then it feels so much better too.
Mm. And you know, you always sing that song to me. What's the song? Love, sexual healing. It's
It's
like,
a good
I'll
song.
heal you, babe. I'm like, okay, you know, and you always feel good after that divine union, you know, and what you're speaking to is building that, you know, that life force energy that the creator obviously gave us for pleasure
Yeah.
and for manifestation, for abundance, for connectedness to nature, which is the elements that you're kind of talking to there, and to each other. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people, yes, are single and they can still arrive at that energy point, you know, and but having, you know, we're married and we're together doing this journey, and so it's been nice to discover those types of pleasures that are very healing and brings you back to connectedness.
Yeah, that's so
Mm,
beautiful. And what a gift to be on the journey together. You know, there's so many people who
mm.
that's what drives them apart, is like one partner really choosing it, the other one not. So but really, like what a blessing to be doing it together, and then to be able to, you know, bounce the ideas back and forth off of one another, and to use your sexuality intentionally. I mean, that's really
Mm.
what magic is just creating more intention and utilizing our awareness and our attention to create an experience that's just slightly more elevated from what it would be normally. So that's so beautiful.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And I love this concept because a lot of people think in order to manifest, right, they've got to raise their vibration. They've got to become the frequency of the thing that they want to achieve, and it is very much this. I feel like it could be a slight misconception that they just need to go up. I very much as above, so below. I think as we raise our vibration, we move out in all directions. So it's great to connect to higher realms. But what you're saying is it's really powerful to connect down into the earth as well, because then instead of the law of the universe, ask and you shall receive, I want this, I want that, I want something else, very much solar plexus, I'll do it by me,
Yeah.
victim consciousness, it's happening to me or it's happening by me. But once you can be the vessel and it happens through you and the energy's moving through, that's given you shall receive. That's exactly what you're talking about. Bring that high vibration through yourself as a divine vessel. It grounds down into the earth and then you receive, it comes back up from the earth,
Immaterial.
spiraling up as well in amazing blessings. I love that. That's, I think for a lot of people, maybe this missing step. So
Yeah.
how do people ground better? What would it like? Some people think, oh, I'll go in nature and I'll ground, or I'll go for a swim in the ocean, I'll ground. How can they do it with more intention? What are some nice little methods you use? Like some people just might know what to do.
I mean, those are great. Like swim in the ocean, swim in any wild waters, go to nature, hug a tree, do all the weird hippie shit. Like it's all going to work. It's all going to support you. Something that I really love to do when I'm at the waters or near the ocean is I really like ground my feet into the earth and I say, I am earth. And I feel that density of myself as the earth. And then as the water laps, whether it's waves or, ripples in a river, and I am water. And then I feel myself as the water. I feel my body, my blood, my saliva, the moisture behind my eyelids. And then I feel the wind around me, like kissing my skin and my hair. And I say, I am air. And I take a deep breath and I release a sigh. And then I feel the sun above me and I let it pour into my eyes or my third eye. And I say, I am fire. And I feel myself as all of these elements. But the biggest thing is just actually paying attention to your true nature and this concept that you're talking about okay, bring the high vibration. The only way to actually bring or receive or allow the high vibration to pass through you is to deal with the parts of yourself that are still operating in the low vibrations. That's another part of manifestation that people are like, oh no, just like say your affirmations. I'm like, if you can say 10,000 times, like I am deeply worthy of love. But if you have not connected to the part of your inner child that does not believe that, and the part of your subconscious mind that has been so anchored in the opposite story of the fact that you're worthy, and you have not faced that shadow and done the work to excavate the pain that little version of you is feeling from the time that they first heard that they were unlovable or unworthy at 4 or 5 or whatever it was, or the first time they experienced abuse or neglect. Good luck with your affirmations. They're not going to work because your subconscious is still going to be stuck in that space. And so anytime that you can go out into nature, anytime you can go and, grounding, like find your solid ground. Anytime you can allow the little version of yourself, the little Pete, the little Roxy, the little like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old and you guys have kids, you see them and you see how a moment where if you get frustrated, they might immediately shut down. Or if you're really happy, they're excited and they're happy. Children are so malleable. They're so impacted by their environment. And so to be raised by conscious parents is such a gift, but how many of us in this generation were? Not many. And so that's really, I would say, the most important thing for anyone. Like if you want to ground, if you want to manifest, if you want to heal, the most important thing is to look at where in your adult life are the things that are ungrounding, right? Like, oh, when money comes up, or, when I have to go to work, or when I have a conflict with my partner, or when someone asks me like what I'm up to and I don't feel confident in what I'm doing. noticing where like those hardest triggers arrive and where you feel most unstable and most ungrounded, and then doing that work with your inner child, going and talking to them, looking at them, seeing them at that age where they had that original wound, and checking in and saying, hey, what do you need right now? And sometimes they just need to be held, they just need to be soothed, they just need to be comforted, and sometimes they need to dance, and sometimes they need to play, and sometimes they need a safe space to like get dressed up and go be weird. And I think that that's also one of the most important factors in grounding for people, is figuring out what is the real solid ground or stable foundation of who you truly are. Because 99% of the time, we're running on who we think we're supposed to be, who we think is acceptable, who society will allow us to be or permit us to be. And then that's what's causing so much mental illness. I mean, so many of these different things are, the food included, but if you can find that path back to your original essence, which I have found nature is one of the most incredible supports for that. Like when I go out into nature, I just feel like myself. Like yesterday, it was the new moon, and my friend and I were just naked in her backyard, like slurping the sun into ourselves and like dancing and singing and twerking and just like having so much fun. And it was so beautiful. And I went to the hot springs this weekend with some other friends, and we're all like grown-ups, and we were all just naked, like running around in the hot springs together. And it just felt so right. It just felt so easy. It's none of the stigma and none of the like, you shouldn't be like this. And I was like, oh, this is so fun. I'm having so much fun. I just love being naked in nature with everyone, because it's just free. And I could feel my inner child alive. And so it's really about, what are the things that you're not doing that make you feel ungrounded? What are the things that you're saying yes to that you really want to say no to, and vice versa? And then that makes you feel unsafe. And like, really what we want, if we want to feel grounded, we want to feel safe. And so there's a little version of you that wants to feel safe, to say what they mean and feel what they feel and be who they are and dress how they want and connect with people, again, from that authentic place. And so I find that doing that deeper inner child work is really the ultimate way to then be grounded in your reality as a sustainable way of functioning.
We're big believers in the inner child work, and then that's the root and the split of the soul, and moving into then the pattern and seeing it all in your timeline and undoing it and loving it, loving the shadow, loving the ego that was developed. And I just love that you're becoming that inner child. Like we've got kids, we've got two kids, and now they all want to wear shorts when they share a bath. When the cousins come over, they won't be nudie tootie anymore. And I think that awareness comes in because of society. And so a lot of us, on this path, we're trying to go back to the original blueprint of the little inner child before 5 years of age. I think 6 maybe is where we saw our children like switching that perspective and thinking about, their private parts, and that being seen amongst other kids and stuff. And it's funny that you say, like, we've got to really find what we are, not what we think we're going to become or what we want to become. It's like we can't change what the original spirit of our true authentic soul really is. And I think back to a photo of me dressed up as a clown on one full moon. It must have been a school disco party. And I always used to think, why am I dressed up as a clown? Like, why would a beautiful young girl, like, why did I choose that outfit? But now, like, I kind of love it, because it's like, that's the humor of my soul trying to show me. And now I like love that part of me. Whereas, for my whole existence, I'm like, why would I be a clown? Like, that's so ugly, like, what a joke, but now I like love it. And even to the point this morning, Pete was like singing with the guitar, being a little kid in the room with the boys. And I just like felt like filming it, like how like cute and innocent, and you were being very playful. I think there is a lot to that frequency, because it is such a higher frequency. And, you want to raise your vibration, be silly, be a kid, like take the facade off, take the layers off, and be the original blueprint. And so many of us are looking and searching for that. So that's
Yeah.
really great insights. Thank you for sharing. So good to reflect
Yeah.
on that.
It's one of our little sayings, when we've been around someone and they've got a heavy energy. We're like, why so serious? People answer, why
Yeah.
so serious? And they're like, so you think, oh my gosh, lighten up a bit. Like we're in here to have a
Yeah.
light, beautiful experience. I funny, I always remember going to a psychic fair at like 18 or 19 or something, right? I went to this psychic fair and
Wow.
I know, weird, right? And there's like the lady sitting in the tent with the crystal ball, sucking on a cigarette with a 600 ml Coke, going to do this reading, right? I know. And I'm sitting there and she's picking all this stuff. I'm thinking, she doesn't seem very happy, but she's
Yeah.
sitting there telling me about the ocean because I love the ocean and this and this and this. And she did like actually a very good reading. But at the
Hmm.
time, I couldn't work out how she could do that, yet obviously not be
Yeah.
the sort of person I'd want to hang out with. It's like as soon as this thing finishes, I'm getting the heck out of here because all love's low vibe. But she had the gift.
Mm.
And so I love the saying, what you are speaks so loudly, people can't hear what you're saying. So it's actually more about energy than what someone does, whether they be very intellectual or even, in my example here, very, let's call it connected, so to speak. Clairvoyance, really just clear vision. They've got a really well developed inner sense of vision, which this lady had, but clearly, not happy, glug, glug, glug. I see you by
Yeah.
the ocean. Da, 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 da. And I'm in my head, this is this is bang on, but how does that all like kind of work? And through life, what I've realized now is it's so much more about energy and all of not so much what happens to you in life, but what you do through what
Yeah.
happens that brings out your spark. Because that's what we get attracted to, right? Like life's an energy experience.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think also, just to have compassion for a woman like that 20-ish
Yeah.
years ago when you were 18,
Thank you
um,
very much for that guess, by the way.
you're welcome. Uh-huh. But the world was a very different place. It wasn't safe for her. Bless her for the fact that she was bold and brave enough to still say, like, I'm a psychic or I'm a clairvoyant, to use those gifts in a time when it wasn't normal to be doing that. I mean, even me hearing you say that you went to a psychic fair 20 plus years ago, I'm like, whoa, cool. Like, wow, that's cool that was happening, that was going on. And my mom is in her 70s and she was doing cool psychic stuff in Sedona in her 20s 50 years ago. And it's really surprising to hear those things. And I think that, the one thing just to what my spidey senses immediately hear and think and feel from that is like, well, she didn't have any support to be doing what she's doing. She probably was one of those kids who was punished for having, prophetic visions or knowing things about people that she wasn't supposed to know. I've had a lot of clients that had really wild spiritual gifts as children and they got locked up or heavily medicated or both. And, you can't talk about that. And they're like, Auntie Marjorie's gonna die, right? And then like Auntie Marjorie died the next day and gets punished, even though like they just knew it was gonna happen. And it's not the devil's work, right? It's just their spiritual gifts alive and well and thriving. And so when I hear about people like that, and I've certainly experienced, in my early days of studying in modern mystery schools, I had a lot of challenge with people whose life force and vitality just like did not look great. I was like, I don't want to learn from that person. Like, she hasn't washed her hair in 6 months. She eats horrible food. Like, she does not look happy. Like, I'm not available. And since then, having become like kind of a scholar in my own right of this, but of what happened to people, of what happened to the magic workers, witches were the village healers. they were the medicine people. They were the ones who you would go to when you were sick or when you were melancholy or when, you know, you just felt like down, and they would heal you because they were the ones who knew the plants and knew the medicines and knew how to work with them and knew the cycles of the moon in order to grow the medicinal plants. And imagine if we, which I mean, there's been a little bit of this, but, you know, imagine if we were like, oh, let's kill all the doctors, kill every doctor in the world, get rid of them. They got to go, you know, that would be insane. And yet that's what we did during that time. And so that residual wound in my book, Intuition, which is all about the as above, so below, and as within, so without. But in my book, we talk about the witch wound a lot. And so, yes, it lives in women of like being afraid of sharing their magic. So bless this woman who, like, yeah, she's smoking her cigarettes and drinking her Coke because she wasn't told how poisonous those things are for her psychic gifts, for her body, for everything, right? Because no one was told that, you know, 20 plus years ago. Everyone was drinking Coke and smoking cigarettes. But also, our gifts were really dangerous. If you were making tea from, again, the herbs that you found outside, if you took a walk in the woods with your friend, if you guys were holding hands or like having a circle or doing any kind of meditation or ritual or spiritual practice, you could be killed for that. And it's not just about how many women, which like, you know, real scholarly estimates are like 9 million women in Europe during the Dark Ages. And that was a huge percentage of the population at that time, you know, killed from like, again, in the Dark Ages, like 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 into like 16, 1,700. So over the course of a couple hundred years, but still lots of people. And a lot of them like there weren't records kept. There's no one talking about it. So this is just like the records that we have. But nobody talks about how the witch wound affects the masculine. When your job back then was to build the house for, like provide for, and then protect that woman, mother, sister, daughter, cousin, best friend, wife, whatever it was, and a big group of cronies like rolled into your house and ripped her out of your home and then hung her, drowned her, burned her at the stake, and you're the one that's left and you failed the one job that you have. Like, you know, Pete, I'm sure you've met a man or two who's racked with the sense of failure and purposelessness and feels lost. And there's an entire generation. If 9 million women were killed, imagine how many sons and brothers and husbands and fathers they left behind. And that, I believe, is really how this destructive capitalism and the patriarchy and the greed and the separation from nature has been perpetuated in our modern world, is because all of those men felt like failures and then acted out, because that's what men tend to do when they feel like they can't accomplish their life's mission and purpose. And so people just don't talk about that. But when I hear about someone like that, you know, she's just living as a result of what's been happening in the world. Goddess bless her for being brave enough to say, I'm a psychic, you know, 20 plus years ago, because I think about the things that I do every day. I mean, I would have been burned. I wouldn't even have been able to reach who and where and what I am, because I would have been burned 10 years ago, you know. And all the plant medicines, I mean, all of that, it was all attempted to be wiped out. That's why the colonization of South America happened the way that it did. So I really honor that woman for doing her best at that time.
Yeah,
totally.
It's so interesting because I never knew about that witch generation. And so that's so fascinating to me. And I'm sure that it would land for a lot of like awakened souls listening to this, because perhaps they are feeling, like you suggested, you know, not in their power and ashamed of not protecting the divine feminine. That could be a past life that they have to integrate. And also like women not coming out with their gifts in fear of being killed. I mean, that is lingering in our energy field. Like, let's face it, we're all now pretty elevating. We're working on our inner child, like our timelines. A lot of us light workers have, you know, accomplished a lot of healing and brought so much light to our vessels and to the planet. There's time for the integration exploration of past lives within the journey as well, the ones that we haven't really finished off on. And I know when we first started on this journey, we were criticized for doing ayahuasca and psychedelics, acid, it was labeled, and we were are you going to get addicted to that? And, all of these weird, kind of projections from my family. And so it was the same with psilocybin as well. And so a lot of people have perspectives on and viewpoints on plant medicines such as ayahuasca and psychedelics like psilocybin, and also on the theme of what a witch title label brings. Okay. And so I wanted to go into that witch, because that's, you're really dancing and playing with the witch energy and that label. And I know a lot of people, and including myself at the beginning, didn't quite understand the magic of that and saw it as a negative. So what kind of brought you into that? And I'm sure you had projections and judgments and different things like that you've probably worked through. And I really do feel that you lived in that generation and you're bringing that spark back through to correct the cycle of that karmic entanglement. Do you feel that?
Yeah, thanks, sis. Yes, I do. Absolutely. But that's what's crazy is that as soon as I claimed it, I had a couple of like Christian friends who were like, but why would you call yourself that? That's evil. And I get the odd Bible verse, like every once in a while on YouTube, but I got a remarkably low amount of kickback or backlash at all. And for me, the word witch means wise. It's the same as wizard, wisdom, like all the same origin. And craft means strength or skill in Old German. So to do witchcraft was just to like strengthen the skill of your wisdom. And we all have wisdom, right? So the shamans in the Amazon, their wisdom is these many years and lineages of like not just brewing the medicine and how they work with it, but everything that they've experienced in their own lives, right? How do we get knowledge? It's information. How do we get wisdom? Through our lived experience, through the lessons that we learn and the way that we integrate and embody them. Because if you learn the lesson conceptually and you can just like blab about it, but you're not living in accordance with it, it's still just knowledge. It's not wisdom. And so for me, the word witch just meaning wise and being about wisdom. I'm not the same kind of witch as a lot of people. I'm not over here like casting many spells. And I know that my words are my spells. And even the word, it was originally W-Y-R-D, Weird in Old German. It's where we get the word weird and the word word, and it meant destiny. Because if you were weird, if you were moving in the direction of your own path, your own destiny, not along with the herd or the flock, like, okay, you're weird, like, cool, moving towards your destiny. And every word we speak is creating our destinies. Abracadabra means I create as I speak. And so when I put on the witch hat at Burning Man several years ago, I met this hot Persian girl wearing a witch hat, and I was having wild past life memories following her through these crowds. And she was wearing this witch hat. She's super tiny, but with this big pointy hat. And so I could follow her through the crowd. And I was totally sober, and I was having psychedelic experiences of like following this witch in the hat through crowds of people. It was wild. And then those were my first photos that went viral. She let me wear the witch hat, and I had like a 2,000 followers on Instagram or something. And then all of a sudden I had more, and it would be like 200 likes on a regular picture of me and 10,000 likes on a picture of me with the hat. And I was like, what is happening? And I realized how many of us feel the same thing. We're like, wait a second, this doesn't feel evil to me. Even when you turn a witch hat upside down, it's the shape of the womb. It's literally like the shape of creation. It's the feminine direction, right? Like that downward pointing triangle. We always are so concerned with going upwards, but downward is how we ground. It's how we root. It's how we build a strong foundation. And so I just realized, wow, people are hungry. They are longing for a reclamation of this word for what it truly means. It's our wisdom. It's knowing how to grow the food and work with the plants and animals and with energy, right? Even Jesus was a witch. He's doing hands-on healing, like he's channeling the life force of God into people. That's witchcraft. Like that's wisdom. All the things that we do in the church, baptism is an ancient pre-Christian Greek and Roman rite to cleanse yourself before debate, even incense, like all the things, taking the blood and body of Christ, that's called sympathy magic. That's been around a lot longer than the church. You know, everything that is done in Christian and Catholic ritual comes from pagan traditions, comes from witchcraft. And so I just found like, wow, people want someone like me who's well spoken, eloquent, educated, passionate, friendly, pretty. They want an example of what a witch is that doesn't look the way that the media has made it, with the green face and the warts and the like evil. You know, like I do have a great witch cackle. Like my laugh, every time I laugh,
that was
like,
very good.
But I realized that people wanted the same thing that I wanted. All these little kids who had grown up reading fantasy or Harry Potter or watching Disney movies, we saw what the world actually was. We grew up and looked around and were like, what the fuck? This is not what I want. This is not what I came here for. I want to change things. I want to make an impact. And I want to walk through, you know, the portal platform 9 3/4 to get into the wizarding world or into Diagon Alley, or I want to walk into my fairy tale and into my fantasies. I want that to be my reality. And so it became abundantly clear that nobody else was doing it, and it had to be me. And so I wore the witch hat, which I still wear, but I wore the witch hat and was totally committed to and devoted to that archetype, because those were the women who were wrongly accused. And when you look at what the church did, right, like murdering people all over the world, colonizing all over the world in the name of God, but wiping out any other relationship to God, wiping out any ancient traditions, outlawing the languages, right? First Nations peoples in America. Look at what happened to the Aborigines. Like, you know, I mean, the in Hawaii, outlawing hula, their sacred dance that was like in devotion to God, outlawing languages. You know, this happened all over the world, and the church called the witches the evil ones. And like, that's how scapegoating has occurred since like the dawn of the patriarchy. And so the true evil was the ones calling someone else evil. And so that's why we have these beliefs about witches, is because we've all been so deeply programmed by the church, because they colonized every single part of the world and stripped us of our own sovereign relationship to the divine. And then we're like, okay, you have to pay. You have to pay. If you want to get your grandpa out of purgatory, like, you got to pay. Oh, here's the tidings. Like, you owe me money. Where a witch would have been like, oh, you got some eggs from your chicken? Like, I need eggs. Cool. Like, here's your medicine. You know, it was all based on trust and faith and like tribal care and connection. And your village healer, your village medicine man or woman would have been fully taken care of because of the gifts and the blessings that they brought. And so then the church was like, no, we're going to be the middleman between you and God. You don't get to have a personal relationship. We'll tell you what your relationship with God is like, and you have to pay us for it. If you want to get out of hell, you got to pay, you know? And it just, and the option, the alternative was death. If you speak out, you die. We'll kill your children. We'll kill your wife. We'll confiscate all of your fields, all of your resources. You know, a lot of reasons why women would get accused of witchcraft was if they had big wells full of water, or healthy, abundant, verdant fields full of food, or big flocks of livestock. And so someone, you know, the next door neighbor would say, oh, she's a witch. You know, maybe she's a widow. She doesn't have a husband to protect her. She's a witch. And then we just steal all of her shit. And that's exactly what the church did. That's why the Vatican is one of the richest conglomerates in the entire world, is because they just stole gold and resources from all over the planet in the name of God. And I personally think that the way that real witches operate, which is like harm none, you know, we're not doing black magic. I do not do magic that affects or impacts any other person besides me, like only ever for myself, unless obviously someone's specifically asking for healing. And my magic is healing magic. That's what my gift is as a healer. And so I really just believe, I have like full body chills saying it. I saw the way that God had been propagated across the world and really taken from us. And the wisdom of my life again from my awakening was that God was inside of and all around me, and God was in the eyes of every person that I met. And I wanted to not only re-experience and reclaim my own personal relationship to the divine, but I wanted to offer that same opportunity to others. And so that's how this particular type of magic came through me, and has become, you know, an international school. I've had every continent except Antarctica obviously represented, but you know, tens of thousands of people now have been through my programs and learned how to create that sovereign relationship with the divine. And so I know that I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to be doing, even though it was, you know, a taboo and very weird way of yeah, of offering a new type of spirituality for people.
Thank you. That's so well done to you, being brave and courageous, stepping up into your power. And you shine, you speak, you shine, you share, and it's engaging. And yeah, thank you for your service. It's really nice to share you here. I feel really proud of this podcast and you sharing the magic through and giving us new perspectives. It's a lot of topics that we have never dove, and is that how you say it? Doven into?
Yeah.
We know what you mean.
Yeah, diving deep into. So yeah, like share with us about your upcoming, you do retreats, you do courses, where can people find you?
Yeah, I have all of the different offerings from, so my book, Intuition, is the first, easiest, available everywhere books are sold. I do retreats in castles like in Scotland and England and Ireland and France, palatial estates, and it's very Hogwarts, but like tantric witchcraft. So lots of deep healing, somatic embodiment, and really profound transformative work. That's like the rage rituals that went viral are one part of the beautiful narrative arc of my retreats. We also do one in the Redwoods, where I grew up in Northern California, every year. And then I have a varying school really of many different ways to work with me, lots of different courses and classes, more ritual based, more embodied, more classes for you to learn and how to create a magical life of your own. But it's really fun, and it's a wide spectrum, so there's something for everybody in there.
I love that.
Thank you. Thanks so much
And
for coming on.
it's all Mia Magic. So MIAMAGIK
Yep.
is my website, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. MIAMAGIK, Mia Magic.
Mia Magic.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your service and coming on Elevated Conversations today. It's been so good to have you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.